Howdy, howdy!
It's fucking hot!
And welcome to But It Was Aliens! Welcome to Woo! But It Was Aliens, the paranormal comedy podcast where we probe paranormal activity to decide for the questionable benefit of humanity whether that activity really was paranormal. My name is Mr. Kevin, and alongside me with no idea what we'll be covering today is Mr. Granville Moonwalker.
That woo wasn't out of excitement. It was because my leg touched the table and it was hot.
Woo! Is that the sound you make whenever something touches you?
That's hot.
Your sex life must be fun. Woo! Today...
I state again, that's hot.
Uh-huh. What if your partner's hands are hot? Woo! Today, we have a listener suggestion. We always forget to mention our listener suggestions, but no more. We will hereby commit to shouting these heroic folk out when we remember. Today's suggestion was brought to us by Big Dave Atkinson on the Book of Face and sees us venturing forth into the southwest of the United Kingdom, a 30-minute drive below Bath, which is a lovely place, by the way, as we poke our probes into Wiltshire. Congratulations on the baby, Dave. Sweet baby Ellis.
Sweet little baby Alice.
Though we know that's a typo and it's Elvis, really. Yes, we may also mib off those who make suggestions, because we love you.
I also thought that he'd sent you the baby's name and asked you to shout the baby out.
No.
Therefore,
I have basically stalked the social media of everyone who has suggested an episode to us.
Sweet little baby.
Sweet baby, Alice. Thank you very much. Did I already say we begin our tale in Wiltshire?
It's fucking hot!
More specifically, we will be visiting a hill, Clay Hill, by Warminster. Specific details. Victor was a person interested in aliens. Victor had friends who were also interested in aliens. Now, one fine evening, probably around the summer, what's a group of alien-loving friends in 1977 to do? There wasn't any satellite television with 100 different movies to choose from. There wasn't any Netflix, just chill. There wasn't an internet, no Xbox or Nintendo. You had to actually do stuff. The group of friends did exactly that. Stuff. The group gathered a tent and some supplies. They're about to go alien hunting. That's right, this group were about to hold an extraterrestrial vigil. Where better to hold an extraterrestrial vigil than somewhere high in the sky where there's limited light to obscure your view? The group headed to Clay Hill. Total darkness. Darkness!
It's been a really weird week.
Right.
So, I don't know if I've just felt old this week.
I mean, you look at...
Or because it's a time of the year where the kids break up for summer holidays, and it's really fucking hot. It's just reminded me of like when we used to break up for summer holidays.
Right.
You'd be like going down the park with your mates on your bike. You've got a football. All you're worried about is who's actually got a ball.
Yeah, who's bringing a ball?
You get hot. You just run up to the shops, get cheap lemonade, cheap Coke, loads of ice poles, come back to the park. Like, they were good times. You were out doing stuff all day without a care in the world. Just like these lot in 1977, climbing Clay Hill without a care in the world, out alien hunting.
Yep, good times. So are you advocating that this is a more positive way of life?
I'm advocating that it's probably more fun and that more, I suppose it's a sign of the times, isn't it? And
not
how
necessarily.
safe
Life is
an
what you make
area
it.
is, that kids should play outside a little bit more.
Yeah, if you go out with a gun, you can make it safe.
Or are you making it more dangerous?
You took that comment slightly more seriously than I was expecting, yet also turned it around. Depends on the hand holding the pistol.
Water pistol.
Indeed. That'll keep the vampires away. Holy water pistol.
I went garlic oil pistol for some reason. Like garlic oil in a fucking water pistol.
Water fights must have been horrid in your household.
I nearly thought of buying a... We've gone way off topic.
Yeah.
But I nearly thought about buying a paddling pool the other day.
Oh, we've got a solid pop-up solid one so that Moxley can't go through it.
But I don't have a Moxley. So just
you
get
can
one.
Borrow a Moxley. Walk past your house with him most days.
Fill it with water and just lay in it. Naked.
If you want to do that in front of Moxley, be my guest. I can't be held responsible for what happens.
Starfish my neighbours.
So yeah, going out and doing things. Positive way of life. What are you doing tonight?
Sitting at home. Doing nothing.
Woo!
I'm old now. Don't have that zest for life that I once had.
You're only as old as the person you feel. Woo!
Just felt myself.
You're old. Should probably get back on topic at some point.
I also didn't feel myself.
The friends were able to make it to the top of the hill despite the total darkness. At the top, because of that darkness, the friends could see all the lights of the neighbouring towns for miles and miles. Helicopters could be seen at a distant military base. Even satellites could be seen in the sky. It was 1977. The sky wasn't suffering from the extreme light pollution of the modern era. These folks didn't even need Captain Planet yet. After an hour or two, the group of friends had seen the grand sum of Sweet Frickle. The friends travel back down the hill to find a good spot to pitch their tent. Just to reiterate, it was dark. This was in the middle of the countryside and there were no street lights. There were less houses in towns too. Total darkness. The friends whizzed about in their car looking for a field to camp in, but they struggled to find anywhere suitable. Eventually, Victor and friends found a gated field. The friends entered and unloaded their gear from the car. Tent, torches, bedding, lube, snacks, the usual. Victor stayed by the car whilst the others searched for a good pitching area just in case the torches cut out and anyone couldn't find their way between the car and tent. The ground was too stony and hard, but as the search continued, the group noticed a weird, swinging light in the distance, almost like a lantern in the wind, and the light was heading
Like a lantern in the wind.
Towards them. Did you mean candle in the wind?
No, I meant lantern. You said it was a lantern. Why am I going to sing about a candle?
Because I thought that's the tune you sung.
It is.
It seems to me you live your life like a lantern in the wind, heading towards a group of children who are also adults in cars.
It did just dawn on me when you said they drove. I was like, shit, they're old enough to drive. I expected them to be like 13.
Yeah, they're late teens-ish.
Okay, late teens. They've entered a gated field. Could be a bad move.
Could be.
It would be quite scary if you just saw a lantern swinging coming towards you. Could they see the outline of someone holding or
Not
something
at
holding?
this point, no.
Okay.
All they could see is the light in the distance gradually moving towards them. Towards them.
That's fine to an extent, because you could just think it's maybe the owner of the land or someone walking with a lantern. And I mean, you've all got torches, so 3 on 1, you might feel a bit more safe. However, they could have a gun to make it safe for them.
They could. Load it up with garlic oil. Keep the bad things away.
Yeah.
To be fair, my experience of gated fields is probably threefold. One, they're gated because they back onto a road and it's like a pet walking field. Two,
Someone's land.
it's a farmer's field and the farmer doesn't want you on their land and will come out at you with a gun loaded with things other than garlic oil if you step foot on field.
Mm-hmm.
Three, it's gated because there is an angry bull in that field that is more than likely going to come towards you and try to hump you if you step foot on said field.
Your experience.
My personal experience of fields, all three of those things have happened.
Tell me more about the bull that tried to hump you.
No, that one's too traumatic. I generally have walked onto a field.
We're a therapy podcast.
The therapeutic comedy podcast. Therapy and comedy go hand in hand, surely.
So, you were walking onto a field?
Yeah, genuinely, I have walked onto a field in the past and there have not realised that it's a bull's field. I've got halfway across the field and then saw what I thought were just cows in the distance before suddenly a bull came through between them and just charged. I pegged it. Absolutely pegged it. I was not taking any risks there.
You
Jumped headfirst over the gated fence to get away from it.
pegged the bull?
Oh no, not this again.
You pegged the bull, ladies and gentlemen.
Have also encountered a farmer with a gun before, but that's a different story.
You live in a dangerous area, son.
There had been a house about 300 yards away, and so Victor wondered whether the lantern was from the house, swinging in the wind. Now I've got that song in my head every time I see it. Seems to me you live your life like a lantern swinging in the wind. But Victor gradually noticed that the light was getting closer to him. That light appeared to be silent. No sound, Granville.
It's light.
Lightning has sound.
Does it?
Thunder.
Thunder isn't lightning.
Yes, it is.
They are two separate entities.
That's the sound of the light striking.
Striking what?
Whatever the lightning hits in the sky, air particles, the ground
So,
occasionally.
Does the light itself have sound?
Yeah.
Or the thing that it strikes causes sound?
No, the energy particles.
So if a tree...
This is not the time for a scientific debate. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it.
Does a tree make a sound when it falls? Or does it make a sound when it hits objects on its way down and when it hits?
If you pump in space, does it make a sound?
What am I pumping?
Air biscuits.
Boom, boom.
Pump into the music. As Victor watched on, the light dropped down, temporarily vanishing from view before reappearing much lower to ground, close to the group of friends now. Victor shouted to his friends, "Look! What is that?" By this point, the light was now clearly an arc surrounding an object. The object was edging closer and closer, bobbing as it did, whereby it disappeared as it dropped and reappeared lower to the ground. Perhaps this thing moved quicker than the human eye could track. Or perhaps the now clearly house-sized light was following the contours of the land, disappearing behind hills temporarily. Victor was understandably bricking it, but one of Victor's friends, who was one of those kind of friends. There's one in most social groups. You're all pretty sensible, but there's just this one maniac who wants to watch the world burn. The friend started shining the torch directly against the light.
I think we've got a few of those.
We've certainly had a few of those over the years.
So, the fact that this thing got lower as it edged towards them,
Yep.
was it stooping down? Like it's stalking them somehow?
Possibly, yeah. Like it's got its eyes on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to make myself seem smaller and crouch down rather than being a large open target?
Possibly.
Or as a farmer and he strapped the light to his dog and
it's a black dog, so you can't see it too well in the darkness.
As the dog moved, he crept beside it, silently, stealthily, ready to pounce
with that garlic oil
and peg.
We're getting far too into pegging on this podcast. Victor said to his friends, "If you want to stay, stay, but I am off." The friends agreed, packed up and absolutely hossed it out of there. Usually this is where our cases descend into madness or bullshit as the crowd follows, slabs and probes the witnesses, but not today, dear probers. The group of friends hossed it safely away, never to be slabbed or probed, as far as we know. But what if I told you that this was not the first sighting of the Wiltshire thing? Let us head back to the beginning at the start. In Boreham Field Housing Estate, Russ Kellett is E.T. Ryder.
E.T. Ryder.
No, I kid.
Oh, you bitch.
Well, about Russ. What is true, though, is
What,
that
he's not E.T. Ryder?
this has nothing to do with Russ. What is true, though...
Does it have something to do with E.T. Ryder?
Excuse me?
Does it have something to do with E.T. Ryder?
No, that is
You're
Russ.
a bitch.
What is true, though, is that on August the 17th, 1965, all was quiet in Warminster's Boreham Field Housing Estate. All was quiet. Until the Boreham Field Housing Estate was rocked by an explosion or sonic boom-like sound.
Sonic boom.
This thing was truly like an explosion. Walter Curtis described to reporter Arthur Shuttlewood that it was a huge blast. A whole series of jolts and explosions were felt underfoot. The biggest explosion I've ever heard. Mrs. Curtis added that it was though the gas man Buck was as though the gas main right opposite us had blown up with a tremendous roar. Yo.
I have a slight question.
Right.
Why is there a slight American accent to your British voices?
Moving on. Local resident David Pinnell ran outside to see what was going on, only to be greeted by the monstrous sight of a huge orange flame crackling and fizzling, whizzing through the sky. There were many other witnesses, and the windows had blown in 2 houses with no explanation.
So the windows weren't blown due to the explosion?
Well, what was the explosion, I ask you?
I believe if windows get blown by an explosion, the explanation is that they were blown by the explosion.
Well, what I'm saying...
What the explosion was doesn't matter.
Well, what I'm saying is that these windows weren't kicked or hit in, so...
They were caused by an explosion is what you're saying.
This explosion-like event blew in windows, yeah.
So the explanation is the explosion-like event.
There was no explanation as to what this explosion-like event was. Yes, Granville, yes.
I apologise for being rather pedantic today, but I'm fucking hot.
That's no reason.
It is. I get agitated and grumpy.
When was the last time you were cold?
This explosion, could it have been caused by the gas main opposite blowing up?
It wasn't. It could have been, but it wasn't. There was no gas main damage.
Did they have any enemies?
The whole housing estate?
Yes.
I suppose it's possible that there might have been a rival housing estate and the 2 estates didn't get on, but I couldn't find anything on that.
Is there a main house that had a issue?
No, this affected the whole place.
Did any of the houses have any illegal products in their garden?
Ooh, now that I can't answer.
Like a series of cal or gas canisters sitting in the back.
Like Barbecue City.
Yep. You know how you see those, I think it is probably Calor gas trucks that go past with the...
Yep.
Was someone working for them or a company similar and couldn't be bothered to take the canisters home. Therefore, they were sat on the back of a truck outside a house. Someone thought it might be fun to, you know what kids are like, throw rocks at it. Let's see if we can get one to blow up.
If that were to have happened, there probably would have been more physical evidence of an explosion, like a whole house would have been knocked out, several houses potentially. All we've got here is a couple of windows that are done in and everyone heard it.
Sonic boom-like event.
Tell me more.
No, it's this.
Yeah, it was a sonic boom-like event, yes. We did say specifically...
Who pissed off Guile?
Blanca.
Maybe that's what it was.
Someone was playing Street Fighter with the volume turned up too high.
Maybe they were playing it on a projector out in the street, and the yellow flame that they saw was Blanca's hair doing his little roll.
Just digesting that, and I think I'm going to move on.
I think you should.
The event I've told you just now wasn't even the first. Let's head back to the beginning at the start.
Street Fighter 1.
Warminster, Christmas morning, 1964, 1:25 a.m. Mildred Head was rudely awoken by her ceiling basically coming to life as it sounded like the elements and nearby woods were lashing the roof. Mildred got out of bed to look out of the window at what was going on and was surprised to see that she could see absolutely nothing. Mrs. Head did, however, notice a weird humming sound like a motorboat that gradually faded away. What was it?
Santa! It's Father Christmas.
Only a few hours later, the soldiers at the nearby Nook camp were awoken by what sounded like one of the chimney stacks being ripped from the roof of the barracks and that chimney being scattered across the lands. At 6:30 that very same morning, Roger Rump and his wife were awoken by a similar sound which they thought sounded like all the tiles being ripped off their roof. At this very same time, Marjorie Bye, who could sign off her letters Bye, was walking to church when it was as if the power of the higher power struck Marjorie, for she was thrown to the ground by some kind of explosive sonic force. In total, more than 30 people experienced this boom.
Was it a windy night?
I don't actually know. I didn't see any accounts. I think it was a calm night.
You think?
Yeah, because there was accounts of how it sounded like the weather was lashing homes, but there was nothing to be seen, so that implies that it wasn't raining or anything.
Were there trees near their houses?
Yes.
So the lashing of branches onto homes, you're saying that couldn't be caused by wind?
So I don't think there were trees on the roofs of the barracks, for example. I haven't seen pictures of all the properties involved, so theoretically that could explain one or two.
What were the barrack roofs made out of?
Barrack.
Loose barrack?
Barrack.
Barrack. Made of bark.
What's a roof made out of? I don't fucking know.
So it could just be wind. Like if they're made out of that sheet metal, then could be the high winds making the sheet metal rattle. The lashing of the house roofs could be tree branches. If tiles are being ripped off of the top of houses due to the power of the wind, that could be what the sound is. What you're telling me here is these people heard the wind on Christmas morning.
That's not what I'm telling you. You're welcome to make that assumption.
No, that's what you're telling me. What I'm assuming is that it's Santa Claus on his sleigh. And that's him leaving the rooftops.
Maybe it's Krampus and his sack of children. Weird things continued in this area.
It started to rain. Windows got wet.
It got windy. In February 1965, an entire flock of pigeons unexplainably died, and this may have happened on April the 11th, 1964, too. In March, at least 3 families heard loud booms coming from above their houses. At 11 p.m. on the 28th of March, Eric Payne heard this same whining, horrid sound, which created such a downward pressure that Eric was knocked to the floor.
Was that in 1965? Or was it just the 28th of March? Because that could have been the day that the
64.
legend was born. It wasn't, but it's a great day indeed.
On the 19th of May, Hilda Hebdige saw something in the sky and actually ended up seeing it on 3 separate occasions that week. I don't know why that surname tripped me up so much. In June 1965, strange lights began being noticed in the sky. Some described the objects in the sky as twin red-hot pokers. Others, such as Patricia Phillips on the 3rd of June, thought it was more of a cigar-shaped object engulfed in a light aura, which wouldn't be unusual for something entering our atmosphere. Come the 3rd of August at 3:45 in the morning, Rachel Atwill was awoken by a whining, droning sound shaking the house and went to the window to be greeted by the sight of a domed object surrounded by light, almost like a massive star 200 yards in the sky above some fields opposite. By August, 8,000 spectators had travelled to Wiltshire in hopes of seeing these frequently witnessed weird things in the sky, because by this point it had become national news. On August the 29th, Gordon Faulkner, who was about 17 at the time, finally managed to capture a photo of a sighting. This was 1965, so it wasn't like everyone had a camera, but Gordon had to do his duty for the world. Mr. Moonwalker, here is that photo with different contrasts in a couple of different versions. What are your thoughts on this object in the sky?
Do you know what it looks like? The bottom of a light bulb.
I was going to say a button.
So it looks like
the button at the bottom of a light bulb.
A light bulb has been broken, and then you're just left with that silver bit at the bottom. Mm-hmm. That's what that looks like.
So this photo isn't convincing you?
No, it's not.
Okay, so do you think that this photo is bullshit, separate from the several hundred witnesses that we've covered?
Yes.
Someone trying to capitalise on the...
Quite possibly, wanting to be part of it. Did he capture this during... Well, he must have captured it during the day, considering the quality of the photo. And if he did indeed capture that...
I think it was the evening, but not necessarily pitch black night.
The thing is, in 1965, cameras weren't that great to take night photos.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just don't know enough about camera. I'm trying to think like a Polaroid today even, or obviously based on old technology, and they don't take great photos in the extreme light or the extreme dark. And
because if it was during the day, my next question is, where are the other witnesses that saw it? Because if he saw that in the sky and took the photo,
yeah,
many more people must have seen that as well.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they were with him.
No, I just mean in general. So you would, I suppose it's
people saw
again.
Lights. I don't think everyone necessarily saw it during all the events. People saw things, and I mentioned, didn't I, about the people started to see a shape beneath the aura of light, like but as I said, not everyone had a camera in the 60s.
I was about to say, you did cover your ass by saying that not everyone had a camera.
Definite arse covering going on. Wiltshire continued to be plagued by something in the sky through late 1965. So many sightings took place that a village meeting was held at the local town hall. Yes, a rabble meeting. A village meeting. Rabble. As with most village meetings, it didn't resolve anything. This brought us onto the events we've covered, and from there, incidents continued with houses and beds shaking without explanation, for example, until the 1970s when things begun dying down. All that I've told you is still only a handful though. There are hundreds of 1 or 2 liner sightings. For example, a lady was putting her washing out when she saw an object whiz overhead at incredible speed. A large yellow light was seen whizzing over the local hospital. On September the 14th, 1965, in Lowellsgate Bottom, then 32-year-old insurance consultant Kenneth Kimberley saw a 50-yard wide blue fizz whiz over the boundary of Bristol Airport, whining as it whizzed before cutting out the engine to Kenneth's Bentley temporarily. Lots of whizzing, lots of engine cutouts. In 1977, UFO enthusiast Kevin Goodman, and it's all in the name, Kevin, that in itself is a powerful name, but that surname, Goodman, there can be no doubt as to the credibility of this witness. Kevin saw 4 red, evenly spaced lights in the sky passing Battlesbury Barracks before loitering around for a few minutes, then whizzing off one by one at 90-degree angles with great speed. Something was, and maybe still is, going on above Wiltshire.
The barracks.
Aye.
Is it large in terms of it's known for its military presence throughout the town?
Yeah. So I will mention this in the next section.
Okay. I will temper.
So my goal now is to get you off that trail of thought and remove that bit from the next section. What could this thing have been? It was silent and the lights weren't flashing, so we can rule out choppers and jets. Victor from the group sighting we covered first was actually an amateur aviation photographer, so would likely have recognised that this thing was your typical, even not so typical, human-made flying craft. The thing caused cars to break down, but only temporarily. An increase in levels of atmospheric dust and emissions is believed to contribute to the formation of dusty plasmas. Plasmas can interfere with radio and mechanics. Was this simply a case of unusual weather phenomenon? Another possibility is that the military created a sonic weapon. Warminster is right by Salisbury Plain military training. Could a training site be the perfect cover for a more advanced program? If we're going to be bastards, technically the military would have been training with this new technology. Sneaky. One elephant in the room is that most in fact, of these sightings were reported to respected Warminster journalist Arthur Shuttlewood, who would go on to have several of his own sightings and become a believer after about 9 months of these reports being made to him. It turned him. Some of the reports by Shuttlewood made to different media outlets unfortunately do provide different dates of the events reported, which could be honest mistakes, but this is combined with some inconsistent information in some of the experiences, such as Eric Payne being knocked to the floor and crawling before dropping to his knees, despite having been crawling, making it impossible to drop to one's knees. Shuttlewood went on to write a book on the Warminster mystery, but Shuttlewood wasn't the only source. Did I mention that the location of all of these events is about a 15 to 30 minute drive from Stonehenge? Merlin, baby! Woo! The Wiltshire or Warminster thing remains unexplained to this day. For another couple of minutes, at least. You doing much this weekend? What about next week? You playing football next week?
You're not getting me off my train of thought.
What's your favourite meal to cook?
Duck.
Talk me through how to make
dauphinoise
it
potatoes.
in detail.
Well, you start off by getting a pan. You don't put any oil in it. Then you put the duck in to sear the top. And then what you do is you sprinkle some salt, pepper, and some bullshit, because this is military tech. They've been testing things. They've been testing. Also, you put the duck skin side down first.
Cooking with G.
Yeah. They're not always gonna test in places away from humans. They also want to see what effect it will have on not necessarily the population, but on like people's cars, people's electricity, housing, all of that, if they were to set off something within a certain area. Well, their calculations might have been wrong. They might have been testing it in a small field. Unfortunately, it just spread. So people's cars stopping, everything like that, could have just happened by accident. The lights and stuff that everyone was seeing in the sky, again, could be a helicopter. They say it's not.
You probably would have heard a helicopter, though. It's quite a specific sound.
Yeah, it depends. Really. I mean, it's a specific sound to us now. It may not have been to everyone back then. If they're testing different types of helicopters, different blades, they may sound different to what you would expect.
No, I disagree there. I don't think it's a chopper.
I don't give a shit if you disagree.
I think you're along the right lines, but I don't think it's choppers.
It's Blanca.
It's Guyan and Blanca. Someone was playing Street Fighter on a projector. Summarising the episode, we've covered the Wiltshire or Warminster
It says it in the name. Warminster.
Minister of War.
Minster of War.
It probably started around Christmas 1964, whereby a lady, an army base, a wife and her husband, and a lady heading to church were all blasted or awoken by a boom from the sky. 30 families were impacted by this sonic event on day dot. Roll on early 1965 and hundreds of dead pigeons fell from the sky. Something, perhaps the truth, was up there. By March 1965, another 3 families had heard the boom, and by August, more than 8,000 hopeful spectators had hit the town with desires to see a UFO. You see, families had seen unusual lights in the sky moving unusually with unusual shapes. Unusual things were happening. In August, Boreham Field Housing Estate was rocked by sightings and a boom that shook houses to their very foundations. One local 17-year-old managed to photograph the weird thing later in August 1965. Things continued into the 1970s with a group of friends seeing a strange light in the sky near Clay Hill in 1977, which bobbed and weaved with the landscape. There have been hundreds of sightings. Today, Warminster has a national reporting centre for UFOs. This is pretty much the UFO capital of England. Strange lights have been seen into the 2000s. Something is up there. Nothing outlandish today, it's just been cold, hard, genuine sightings. Numerous, too many to count. It could be plasmas, a sonic weapon covertly developed by government or military organisations that I and Mr. Moonwalker have never been a part of, or aliens, or a journalist who probed a little too deeply, or Merlin. Now that you've heard the history of this mystery, is there anything that you'd like to go back over before we conclude Mr. Moonwalker?
I totally forgot about the group at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Did they head back to the field
No.
the following day, so they never went back?
Well, they might have gone back through other activities, but I don't think they held any further extraterrestrial vigils.
The writer of the book is a Shuttlewood
yep.
with the inconsistencies.
Mm-hmm.
Did he make any money from the book?
Well, probably a little bit. He's not a millionaire.
Did he write any other books?
Oh, I can't recall. I did look into him, and I kind of, to get to my thoughts before I'm going to get to my thoughts. Yeah, I don't know whether... I don't think he hoaxed the whole thing, but I think he got carried up in it and, yeah, started elaborating a little bit too hard, perhaps. It became like a passion topic for him.
That's where I was going with it. I think there was some military testing going on. Possibly some of the people nearby saw some weird things in the sky but couldn't explain them. So therefore immediately went UFO. And it could just be, again, like there's been instances where people have seen a planet and because it looks brighter than a star, they'll think it's a UFO. So they could have seen that. And I think what he's done is embellished the stories and also made some up to try and capitalise on it and make some money.
Yeah, so on that note, are you saying that it was aliens?
No, I am not.
Yeah.
I'm going to poo-poo all over your case.
No, that's fine. It is important to remember that not all of the sightings came from Shuttlewood, though obviously a lot did. We can't rule them all out because of him. Something was still happening, and he wasn't sort of the only person involved, but he was involved in a lot of them. And it's also worth mentioning that folks in more modern times have claimed that photo was faked, and it reminded me of a photo that you did in the previous probe that looked like a button, basically, but we can't prove that either way.
I think that one was a wheel cap.
Yeah.
And that was the Betty and Barney Hill, if I believe, right?
Yeah, but
if I remember correctly, like a memory wizard.
I'm right there with you. I'm not saying that it was aliens either. Probably was a combination of mistaken sightings of sort of shooting stars, meteors and that kind of thing, because that would make an explosion in the sky potentially. Alongside that, probably some military tech like sonic jets testing, breaking the sound barrier, see what would happen, that kind of thing.
That's a good point. I totally forgot about the windows as well, but that's what I was going to say earlier. If they're breaking the sound barrier, that's going to knock out windows, depending on how low they are. Yeah,
and this was Cold War times. They might have even been actually responding to sort of potential reports and that kind of thing, hence why they weren't warning the public and denying all knowledge, who knows. But yeah, it's too close to military bases and not enough meat on the bone to suggest that it's extraterrestrial. Not hugely consistent either. It's not like we've seen the exact same thing over and over and over. We've heard lots of booms, but that could be different craft. We don't really know. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Any final thoughts from yourself before we say toodle pip, Mr. Moonwalker?
No, none.
Well, that is a wrap for today. Thank you for listening to But It Was Aliens. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is to head on over to patreon.com/But It Was Aliens and sign up for the price of a cup of coffee to become a patron of the show. In exchange, Granville will blow you. You will gain access to our monthly side probes as well, where we explore the darkest of paranormal mysteries, conspiracies, and legends. You can share episode suggestions with us on social media, including the ex-Twitter @ButItWasAliens. You can also say hello on Twitter Facebook, where connected to But It Was Aliens is a secretly public private group called Extraterrestrial Towers. Being a member of Extraterrestrial Towers grants you protection from the aliens when they invade. To enable this protection, we do have to collect all your jewellery and valuables and put them in a safe only myself, Mr. Moonwalker, and Rick from Porn Stars can access, but that's only because valuables interfere with the space juice we use to protect you. That is it for this episode, so until next time, if humans evolved from monkeys, why are the monkeys still around? The truth is up there. #Pride.